Good afternoon and welcome to Mocha Talk. I'm Denise Bunning, and thanks to FAIR for creating this safe space for us to chit-chat about various monthly topics. As a former teacher, support group leader, and of course, food allergy mom, I'm thrilled that this episode is Back to School. Back to school was always a time of excitement, new students in classrooms, and new opportunities. But as a food allergy mom, back to school was definitely a time of stress and anxiety. Making sure the administrators, nurses, and teachers were completely up to speed with my son's 504 plans and the various accommodations that needed to be in place put me on edge those first couple of weeks of school for sure. As we know, last year was a rough year for all of us and extremely challenging for our kids. And while this year might not be completely back to we once knew it, it seems like most of the kids are going back to school, which for food allergy families can be a bit overwhelming. On today's episode, we will have some guests that share their back to school experiences and help guide us on how to navigate this yearly milestone. And with that, I'd like to introduce today's guests so that they can introduce themselves. Our first guest is Karie Mulkowsky. Take it away, Karie.
Thank you, Denise. I am so happy to be here. I have watched every Mocha Talk, so this is awesome. Thank you for that introduction. So my name is Karie Mulkowsky. I am the Director of Education Programs and Prevention Manager here at FAIR. I have been with the organization for over 8 years. And I'd say my favorite part of working at FAIR and kind of my specific role is being able to work so closely with food allergy families, like really getting to know them so I can ultimately better support them. In this time of year, I mean, this is such a great time to do just that. Back to school, like you were saying, it's so exciting, but it can also be really stressful for families. So it's just a good time to check in, make sure our food allergy community is prepared to not only have a fun year, but also a safe year as well. So happy to be with you today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm glad you could be with us. Our next guest is Dr. Michael Pistiner. Take it away, Dr. Mike.
Mike Pistiner. I'm a pediatric allergist, and I'm the director of food allergy advocacy, education, and prevention in Mass General Hospital for Children in Boston. And I have an 18-year-old son with food allergies. And being the hat wearer of being a pediatric allergist and the father of a kid with a food allergy got me really involved in advocacy and education, specifically in schools. So thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here, and thank you so much for being not only such a smart, cool dad, but representing all the families at large. So we really thank you for being here, and thank you for that. And our next guest is Gracie Preminger. Take it away, Gracie.
Thank you for having me. I'm Gracie. I'm 17 years old. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm going into my senior year of high school. And I have an allergy to peanuts and tree nuts. And I'm on the teen advisory group for FAIR, which is really fun, highly recommend. And I really like it because I've made friends and it's such a good community. There are monthly talks and it's just a really good time. So thank you for having me.
We're thrilled that you could be here. And I already told you this, but I love you because you're wearing my favorite color, purple. Excellent. Okay, so let's get started. Our first question, school is back. What are you most excited for this year? We're going to start with you, Karie.
Awesome. So I think I'm excited for just everybody going back to school, just being able to have the opportunity to be back in person, in the classroom, in-person learning. You know, I think of people like Grace who are seniors this year, and I think especially for them, I'm most excited. You know, this is such a milestone year for them. And thinking of the seniors last year who maybe didn't get to go to prom or have their graduation or homecoming, I think I'm just really excited for those students who are having that milestone year, whether it's graduating college or high school, or maybe a freshman, you know, just kind of those transition years, really getting back to some like of the normalcy of in-person school.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, Dr. Mike, you're up. What about you?
It's exciting that our students are going to have the opportunity to get back in person. And so that's going to be really exciting. And what I think that we can anticipate is that the old policies and some of the plans that some of our families and our communities have established pre-COVID may have some changes. And I think that it's going to be a little bit challenging and at the same time exciting to be able to get back to being able to implement our food allergy prevention strategies and our emergency preparedness strategies, which also are going to help the kids with some of their own self-management and their own improvements in their own self-esteem and efficacy, self-efficacy. And I think it's going to be a good year. I think that our school nurses are absolutely engaged, and it's gonna let's see where our conversation goes. But I'm excited for it.
Wonderful. Couldn't agree more. Okay, Gracie, how about you? Senior year coming up. What's really exciting for you?
I think I'm just excited to make memories with friends and just have all the senior year, everything that comes with it. So all the dances and the sports games and just seeing all my friends in person. I think that'll be really fun. So
I think that sounds like a wonderful, wonderful time. So my kids are adults now, and I really miss going back to school shopping for supplies. And I actually can't help myself, and I still do buy a fresh set of markers for myself. It's the elementary school teacher in me. I have to have those fresh markers every year. So, okay, getting to our second question. What gives you the most anxiety? Karie, we'll start with you again.
That's a good one. And I've actually talked to a lot of parents about this because one thing in particular that comes to mind is that many parents have said that their children experience like so much less anxiety while at home doing online virtual learning this past year, particularly related to not having to worry and stress about eating meals at school. You know, when I think about it, totally makes sense. You know, while at home, they're kind of in a safe area. They have foods that they're familiar with. Whereas at school, you know, that may not always be the case. So I think for a lot of parents, you know, that transfers onto me, just, you know, worrying about the food allergy community. You know, it's just that maybe going back to school and their child having anxiety when, you know, it was an eye opener for them that they really didn't have it while at home. So I think, you know, there's definitely things that can be done in conversations with the school to help alleviate that. But I have heard that from several in the community.
Yes, definitely. I think that, you know, you bring a good point up, you know, the health and wellness of our children, from the emotional, physical, spiritual, all of it, you know, as a whole child, you want to make sure to meet the child where they are, and for parents to really take the time to try to understand where in the development that child is, which like goes flipping right over to Dr. Mike. What about you?
From the dad perspective, my 18-year-old is going to college, and where he has gone out to eat with his friends here on his own, and he self-manages really well, things are going to be a little different. And so I am very confident that he is going to take what he learned and implement it even in college. But these changes always are somewhat uncertain. But interestingly, now from the perspective of a pediatric allergist who works with schools, I kind of have a flip where a lot of the kids who were doing home learning, those were children who may have had adult supervision when in normal circumstances in school when they were in-person learning. But then because their parents might have had to go to work, some of these kids who were a little younger were home alone. And so what gave me a little anxiety is kids who may have been in the supervised setting of a teacher, of a school nurse, who are now by themselves, and maybe they were 11 or 12, and their family, if they had the choice, would have had them with some adult supervision until maybe 12 or a little older. But now we had some of the kids who were earlier than their families anticipated. So if we have some hybrid models and things like that, I think that empowering our kids to be able to self-manage is going to be necessary when they're home learning by themselves.
Excellent point. I think that like that self-management and again, those with food allergy kids, this community spends so much time teaching our kids to say yes and no, to read labels, to follow the rules, to be careful. And so that brings up that, you know, from the college point, I think it's interesting because when you're heading off to college, some of the kids with food allergies have mentioned, and I'm sure Gracie, you can talk about this, that they probably talk about this at TAG, like they've been well prepared because of their food allergies. Like I'm always looking for the silver lining, but you know, they are careful individuals, not everybody, of course, all the time, but you hope that they are following the rules and they know what to do and are handling themselves in the best way possible. So how about you, Gracie? What brings you the most anxiety?
Well, yeah, like you were saying, I feel very prepared coming into school just because I've had so much experience with it. And I think that's just something that comes with practice and as you get older. And I've had my allergy since I was born. So it's just second nature at this point. But there's definitely anxiety, there's constant anxiety when it comes to having food allergies, which is difficult to avoid, but it gets easier. And I think cross contamination or just sitting at a table and someone's eating like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, that does cause some anxiety and makes me a little nervous. But overall, I think at this point, I feel really prepared. So I think I'm ready.
That's awesome. Thank you for being so open and honest. I want to really commend you for being willing to come on the show and share your feelings. I'm sure being on TAG has helped. You've met other kids, same age and older and younger. And I do really want to, you know, do the shout out to TAG, because I do think that being with kids that get it and parents that get it, for frankly, really makes such a big difference. And I know that that's why I'm, you know, here I am, you know, it's been a gamillion years and I'm still involved because I love helping families, and that brings me joy too. If I can bring a little tidbit or help to one family and it's made someone's life a little bit easier, then I've done my job. So I think for me, I would say, you know, previously when the kids, as I mentioned in the beginning, when the kids were younger, the anxiety of making sure that the administrators and teachers and nurses knew what they were going to do, knew what the expectation of their health, whether you have a 504 plan or a healthcare plan, making sure that the teachers and administrators and nurses knew exactly what to do through those different transitions. Elementary, what were the transitions there? Middle school, what were the transitions there? High school, what are the transitions there? College, what are the transitions there? So each transition brings so many different challenges, and that's actually the number one thing I get asked now that the kids are 27 and 25, not kids, young adult. And each transition you have to focus on something else, and it's up to the child or young adult that has those food allergies on how they want to handle it. And the parents need to work together with that youngster, or, depending upon the age, to make sure that it's working for your family. And the constant communication, I would joke and say all the time, like, thank goodness for having a phone and being able to text, because you can indiscreetly check in, or, give the letter K, or say you're okay. Or if your child needs help, they can say, what should I do in this situation, and be in a, under the radar type of situation. So I think that the constant communication and openness is just super paramount. So anyway, okay, here we go to third question. What advice do you have for other food allergy families out there as they're gearing up to head back to school? So we'll start with you again, Karie.
Thank you. Wow, this is such a great question. And when I think about it, what's so crazy is that for so many families, it's been a long while. Like, it could have been up to a year and a half since their child was in school for in-person learning. So now is a very good time, I think, for all of us to remind ourselves of some of the steps we can take to really make sure, our kiddos are headed back to a safe and inclusive environment. And I think, Denise, you just like hit the nail on the head when you were talking about, anxiety, and making sure that the teachers and the administrators and everybody in the school environment knows what to do. So I would just piggyback off of that and say, I think a really good first step, and one that should be done even before school starts, is for food allergy families to reach out to your school to kind of help alleviate that anxiety or stress, or lessen it in any way. Make that appointment with the school nurse, your child's teacher, the cafeteria manager, the coach of your child's sports team, or any other school staff, and just talk about, kind of what your child's needs are throughout the day, from the classroom to the cafeteria to the school bus, maybe even out on field trips, kind of talk about, walk through a typical school day and talk about maybe the accommodations or special services that your child will need to fully participate in these school activities. we definitely want the school to know about your child's allergies and how to recognize and respond to an allergic reaction. These items are often outlined in emergency care plan, emergency action plan. But we definitely also want to make sure the school has any accommodations in place, to best support your child. So I think, overall, my best advice is to start early. And I know some schools have actually gone back already, in Georgia and Florida and other states, and it's never too late. But for those of you that have some time, make sure you reach out to the school beforehand.
Great. Lots of good suggestions. How about you, Dr. Mike?
Yeah, so school health will be your great point person. Lots of the schools that we're sending our kids to have awesome policies in place. Many are guideline based. We have the CDC guidelines. And then many schools already have awesome policies that have been working for years. Checking in with school health, seeing and checking in on whether there were any updates or changes, making sure that all forms are filled out, that you plug in with your allergist if you have one, or your pediatrician or family medicine doctor to get any auto injectors if necessary, make sure that they're updated, get your allergy action plan, check in with your healthcare providers to see if there is any input that they would need to give. If there's any reason you need to establish a 504 and make sure that your healthcare provider is involved in some of the decision making there. Pretty much the theme is to get school health and the medical home together to be able to help support your kid.
Wonderful, wonderful. How about you, Gracie?
I think I agree with everything that everyone just said. And for me, what really helps is if you have a pouch. This is just go-to because you always have to have your medications on you. But especially in school, if you just have a pouch that has all your medications, all your EpiPens, and then I think what helps is having a list of your allergies, and then for each specific one, detailing the severity of the reaction that you'll get, and then having separate contact cards for all your emergency contacts, your doctors, your parents, just anyone who might be able to help you. And just also being confident in your ability to advocate for yourself, I think is important. And that's not going to come like right away. Like you're not going to go into school and be like, yes, I can advocate for myself 100% of the time. It does take practice, but if you can just take a minute and be like, okay, this is a food allergy. If I can just say, hi, are there any nuts in this? Or if you're with a friend, could you sit maybe on the opposite side of the table so that there's no possibility of cross-contamination? Just being sure that you can have that self-advocacy is really important. So yeah, you got this. It gets easier. So.
That's wonderful. That's such fantastic advice, Gracie. I love how yes, you do got this, but also, as you said, it does take practice. So you want to be kind to yourself and give yourself a little, I'm going to use your word, grace. give yourself a little, I had to do it, sorry. Give yourself a little grace and space to give yourself that ability to practice or role play. And, the older you get and the more experiences you have, the easier it is going to have. The easier it will be for you to, ask someone to maybe move away or, advocate a little bit, if you're not a talker, if you're a little bit more shy, that you've had the opportunities to say what you need to say and be an advocate for yourself. So what a great answer, Gracie. Okay, so the other thing I was going to say is just, we all need to have a positive, open mind. Like, this has been such a challenging year, and it's going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of patience for all of us. And so to just maybe take a minute, I think Gracie, you said this too, like take a minute, not, try to take a pause, try to be positive, come at it. If something isn't going exactly how you want it to go, communicate with the teacher or the principal, or if you need to circle back with your doctor or what have you, so that you can get your situation in school how you want it to be, so that it's a safe space so that you can learn. All right, so here we go. Now I thought it would be nice to hear some specifics from these three wonderful guests. Karie, I'm going to start with you. Tell us some of the back to school resources FAIR has cooked up for those going back to school with food allergies or going for the first time.
Awesome. I'm happy to. And I warn you first that I could probably talk for hours about all of them because there's so many, but I'll limit myself and just highlight a few. But just if you're interested, everything I'm about to mention and more, you can find on FAIR's Back to School Hub. And really, whether you're a parent or a teacher, or you're getting ready to send your child to preschool or college, we've definitely got you covered. So to start, I want to mention FAIR's Emergency Care Plan. It's often called Emergency Action Plan or Food Allergy Action Plan. I know AAP has one and there's some others out there, but this is such an essential resource. Hopefully Dr. Pistiner would agree with me that everyone should be aware of. This plan outlines recommended treatment in case of an allergic reaction. It's signed by a physician like Dr. Pistiner and includes emergency contact information. And really every child diagnosed with a food allergy should have one of these plans in place. So just want to mention that first and foremost. Like the doctor mentioned, again, we have our CDC national guidelines are kind of the gold star as far as guidelines that schools and districts can implement to help manage students with food allergies. They were published in 2013. The resource is over 100 pages, but FAIR did a really great job of breaking it down into some tip sheets and downloadables that kind of highlight some of the most important information. So you can check those out on our website as well. And then, we have resources on anti-bullying. We have trainings for school staff. We have upcoming webinars that you can register for, posters, again, printable items for your classroom, anything from hand washing to how to best clean surfaces. So we have a wealth of information, that's available for free online. And just really quickly and lastly, to highlight two new cool resources we have this year. We have our back to school parent checklist, and that covers everything a parent needs to know when sending their child with food allergies back to school, from like Dr. Pistiner was saying, making an appointment with your allergist or healthcare provider to make sure you have, your medications, your epinephrine auto-injectors or asthma inhalers or whatever you need, as well as making sure you have those conversations with school. And then what do you do after school? Now that school started, what are some of the steps you can take to make sure that your child's thriving? And then the second new resource we have are these really cool, like bite-sized snack videos, and they feature healthy, tasty recipes that kids of all ages actually, can really help the parent prepare. So just kind of something fun to check out. But yeah, a ton of resources. I'll stop talking, but please check out our back to school hub on our website.
Fantastic. Literally soup to non-allergy nuts. Okay, sorry. Today is jokey day, I guess. Okay, so Dr. Mike, and my kids are going to be like, Mom, seriously, that wasn't funny. Okay, so Dr. Mike, in your role, you facilitate collaboration between school and home and pediatric allergists and pediatricians. Tell us a little bit more about this very important work that you do.
Well, I think it starts with the family, and it starts with the family's relationship and conversations with their healthcare provider. And one of the really important things is going to be getting parents and ultimately the children understanding what it takes to manage a food allergy and to do it with confidence, and getting comfortable with the pillars of food allergy management, the pillars of prevention and emergency preparedness. And then when the family establishes these expectations with their healthcare provider, we need to take those pillars wherever we are and wherever we go, whether it's at grandma's house, on vacation, or at school. So now taking these pillars with them and having this conversation with school health in preparation for the school year, making sure that all of these prevention and emergency preparedness policies and practical approaches are happening in the school building, whether it is a kindergartner or whether it is an 18-year-old, and whether it's elementary school or whether it's a high school. And so being able to then everybody be on the same page and have the same expectations is going to make it a way less challenging and stressful circumstance. And this collaborative understanding is going to go far.
Wow. Okay. So you mentioned that you're a food allergy dad also. So I want to just tap into that for a second. As a food allergy dad, what specifically has helped you and your family navigate having a child with food allergies in schools?
My relationship with and trust in our school nurse. I have really tried not to micromanage and go with the flow, and it's been great and it's been fun. Every once in a while, they pull me in just to kind of give some talks to the staff, but not because I needed to, but just because they knew I was into it. Our school nurse in elementary school, Nurse Becky, was amazing. And I really didn't feel like I needed to change any of the school policies. And we came into a well-honed, highly functioning machine, and I just did what I was told. So it was pretty nice to be able to do that.
That's really fantastic. And you bring up actually a good point. Years and years ago, schools were just beginning to put policies and procedures in place. And I want to highlight that FAIR has lots of resources besides the fact, all of the different things that Karie was saying on back to school. You can, if your school doesn't have a policy or procedure, there are plenty out there from every single state. You can get an example, you can download it, you can give a link, you can help your school. So if you're a parent out there and you're like, my school really needs to get up to speed, we can help you. FAIR can help you. They've got all of the different things that you can possibly want in one resource, which is so phenomenal. So kudos to FAIR. So Gracie, thanks for being patient. And last but not least for you. So what are some things that you personally have implemented to make things easier at school?
I'm fortunate to go to a school that has really good structures already in place, but I've done kind of small things. I'm trying to get a club for everyone with food allergies or food sensitivities or celiac disease or just all across the board so that we can kind of have a support system. And then just other small things like making sure there are ingredient lists on student council bake sales or making sure there are food allergy friendly items for after school sports or theater programs or anything. And then at my old school, my mom and I and a few other kids and parents created a nut free table. Pretty fun time. Some of my friends chose to sit with me, which was pretty special. So yeah, just the small.
That's wonderful. So I have a couple more questions for you, Gracie, if you don't mind. Do you have any advice on how to talk to non-food allergy students and school staff about your food allergies?
Yeah, I think it's important to do this because you're not only advocating for yourself, but you're advocating for the entire food allergy community, which is something that's good to remind yourself of. It's nerve-wracking. I will say I've done it, I've failed, I've succeeded. It's, there's trial and error, there's a process. But I think just being really honest and knowing that it's okay to advocate for yourself, you're not in any way a burden. You didn't want the food allergy. You're literally just talking about something that could save your life or prevent you from having a reaction. And just, go up to them, be like, hey, I just want to talk to you about something real quick. Doesn't have to be a long conversation. It can be 1 to 2 minutes. If it's your friends, then I think for me, it's been more stressful to talk to my really close friends. I'm not sure why. It could be the opposite for someone else. But just know that if they're a good person, if they're your good friend, then they're going to respond well. And if they're not, then you deserve a lot better. So just have that self-worth and yeah, you'll do great.
Well said. Well said. What a wonderful young lady and what a fantastic advocate. FAIR is lucky to have you on the tag team. And thank you again for being open and honest about your feelings and how you go about things. I can't believe this, but holy cow, it's been an amazing episode. This always flies by. I'm always like, oh my gosh, the time is up already. I want to thank all of my guests for joining me today and hopefully helping some food allergy families out there. I'm sure we did. So that's what we're here for. FAIR is here to help you. So reach out for sure. Don't forget, as Karie says, reach out to FAIR's Back to School Hub for all your food allergy back to school needs and then some. Thank you for watching Mocha Talk. I'm sending you love, rainbows, laughter, and gratitude, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.